So I've recently been getting a lot of questions about what remote triaging actually means. So I wanted to sort of break this down in a more in-depth way. So first and foremost, what you really need to understand is the actual fundamentals of remote high ticket sales as a whole, and more or less like how the system of selling from a remote setting actually works. So first and foremost, you need to understand the two main fundamentals that make remote high ticket sales, and that's appointment setting and high ticket closing. So initially, the whole entire sales process is going to happen first with appointment setting. So first of all, we have DM setting, and this is obviously setting appointments via text message, via DMs, booking people onto calls, and then selling products from there. Then we have phone setting. This is also referred to as dialing. This is ultimately where you're cold calling people, you're on the phones, you're selling via the phone, or booking an appointment via the phone. And then finally, we have remote triaging. Remote triaging is more or less like the last kind of in-between element. It's not quite high ticket closing, but it's also not appointment setting. The appointment setter is going to set an appointment for the remote triager. The remote triager is then going to take a quick 10 to 15 minute call on a Zoom meeting, a Google Meet, anything of that sort, understand in more depth a lead's overall situation, their financial qualification, any potential objections that could come up. And then if the remote triager thinks that that lead is a good fit, they're going to book them onto a sales call. And then finally, if the lead is booked onto a sales call, that's where the high ticket closer is going to come in and actually process the payment and close the deal. Being a high ticket closer, you're usually taking anywhere between about 3 to 8 calls per day, really just depends on the offer. The commissions are a little bit higher as well, typically like 10 to 20% of each deal. And then overall, you just get paid more being a closer. There's a higher monthly OTE. And honestly, remote triaging isn't even really that common. Like I've been a remote triager at one point as well. I was a remote triager for about 6 months. And the reason I bring this up is because you are not going to find remote triaging opportunities that often. I like to consider them more or less like intermediate opportunities because first of all, you're not necessarily setting appointments in the traditional sense. You're setting appointments specifically for the high ticket closer. You're essentially like a second step appointment setter with a little bit more of an advanced workload. You're not quite texting people anymore. You're not simply just chatting with them and having conversations. You're actually doing it over a meeting similar to how a high ticket closer would do it. If I have any recommendations for anybody who's trying to get into this space, if you are ideally looking to become a high ticket closer, I would for sure recommend finding a remote triaging role in between. Maybe you're tired of being an appointment setter. Maybe it's becoming too easy. Maybe you're looking for a little bit more advancement in the space. Instead of jumping directly into the deep end and becoming a high ticket closer immediately, being a remote triager is always an option as well because it gives you a lot of experience being on like sales call type situations where you're in Zoom meetings, you're waiting for people to show up, you're having 10, 15 minute conversations, and then booking those leads onto sales calls. So hopefully that gives you a little bit more clarity with what remote triaging actually is. Again, it's not a very common thing in this industry, so it's always good to sort of educate people on certain aspects of this industry. It's pretty broad.